Hi, my name is Kathy Diaz.
And my name is Sophia Carrier, and this is our group performance on the gold standard's control over the working class, William Jennings Bryan's crusade to end economic disparity in America.
But before we begin, there are some things you should know. The 1896 presidential election held many controversial topics. Throughout our story, we will be diving into the diverse opinions on the gold standard.
And for those of you who may not know, the gold standard is a monetary system where a country's currency or paper money has a value directly linked to gold, and that fixed price is used to determine the value of the currency.
Without further ado,
Please enjoy. If I don't hurry now, I'm going to be late.
Hey Gerald, what's the big rush? You never miss the morning tea at the cafe.
You don't understand. It's a Democratic convention, and William Jennings Bryan is giving a speech.
Oh, Gerald, you know how I feel about him. If you could just hear me out.
You don't understand. He understands farmers like me, the middle class. We're being economically oppressed, and it's not like I can pay you back anyway.
I could always put it on your tab. You know we're friends, but you shouldn't listen to that guy. The next thing you know, he's going to try and reinvent the dollar. You just have to work hard like me, and look how I turned out.
You don't understand. You're not covered with loans and debts. My income is starting to decrease its value by the minute, and there's nothing more I can do than just listen to what he has to say. And I really must get going.
No private character, however pure, no personal popularity, however great, can protect from avenging wrath of indignant people. We together will fight for justice in our economy. We shall not let the gold standard take control of us any much longer.
It seems like I'm a little late. It seems like Bryan's goal here is to promote a free silver movement, a gold and silver standard opposed to the single gold standard we have today. If what I heard in the newspapers is correct, the new movement should return bimetallism.
We do not come as aggressors. Our war is not a war of conquest. We are fighting in the defense of our homes, families, and prosperities.
But from what I heard from Thomas, adding money to the supply would end the current deflation in the U.S. and create the possibility of inflation. But then again, paying my debts would become extremely easy by that point.
If they dare to come out in the open field and defend the gold standard as a good thing, we shall fight them to the uttermost, having behind us the producing masses of the nation and the world, having behind us the commercial interests and laboring interests and all the toiling masses.
I see. So Mr. Bryan believes that a gold and silver standard would bring the nation to prosperity, unlike the gold standard, which only allows the rich to stockpile gold, where the rest of us are economically oppressed.
We shall answer their demands on the gold standard by saying to them again, you shall not press down upon the brow of labor this crown of thorn.
He argues that a free silver movement is not attacking gold delegates and their big business interests, by helping the common man simply get back to living their humble lives and have something to pass down to their families.
You shall not crucify mankind upon a cross of gold.
I've heard cross of gold before. It's a public policy which puts the interests of the rich ahead of those of the poor. It most likely describes a metamorphical crucifixion of the working class by maintaining the gold standard. So Mr. Bryan tends to favor the working class more than the upper class. After all, it's his plan that focuses on raising us up to their level. Although this plan seems ideal to someone like me, I do wonder how this would work on someone like Thomas, who isn't necessarily the working class.
I first heard about Bryan's speech a couple days after it was performed. It became infamous almost instantly. It was all over the paper, but I just can't seem to understand how Gerald could possibly think this policy is going to help the both of us. The hard work I put into this cafe, the savings I have put aside to expand this place, my family whom I must feed, the price of the dollar would almost be worthless if this ever went into place. So where does that leave me? Everything I have saved and worked for would be... Oh my! Is that William McKinley? Bryan's Republican opponent for this year's presidential election? In my cafe?
Excuse me? May I have some tea, please?
Of course.
You can't be serious. Have you seen his speech? He can't seriously be this naive. Using a silly idea to change the balance of our economy? Who is he trying to impress? A gold and silver standard would ruin our stable economy. I mean, I understand it could be inconvenient to some, but just look at this thriving business, with the best tea in town, might I add.
Well, thank you very much, sir. I also do agree that...
What? I only do what's best for the people, and a gold and silver standard isn't one. This election undecided if you ask me. You know what? I have an idea.
Thomas. My name's Thomas.
Thomas. I have an idea, Thomas. I'm going to invite him here. Maybe give him some insight on what he's really hoping to enforce and how badly this will turn out.
So, later that week, McKinley invited Brian to discuss about the free silver movement. No Gerald today either, huh?
What's taking him so long? He should be here by now. It's almost been an hour.
My apologies. What was it that you wanted to discuss?
It's about time. Listen, time is money, but it seems like you haven't completely grasped on the concept of what money really is.
Excuse me, is this about the free silver movement?
What else would it be about?
I needed everything to say in my speech. The problems with tying currency to our gold supply are immense. It doesn't guarantee economic stability, it's costly, and the supply of gold isn't fixed, which, as you know, can cause creeping inflation, and...
You think the gold standard caused inflation? You should see the level of hyperinflation that this gold and silver standard would produce. It would take the United States years to recover from. We don't have an equal amount of gold and silver, and adding the money into our gold supply would just devalue the dollar. Well, why ruin what already works?
Can't you see it's not working? Farmers are the backbone of society. Oppressing a farmer's income will negatively affect every civilian in the country, no matter their social standing. This is an essential problem to fix that you're ignoring. With the implementation of a gold and silver standard, farmers would be able to make more profit and increase productions of plantations and eventually pay off their debts, making the country have a stable food source, not one that fluctuates so much.
I'm sure you're aware that we were on the gold and silver standard before 1834. Then we quickly switched to a gold and silver standard. Why, might you ask? Well, gold was a better fit because there was a limited supply of it, and that would make it helped us have a better control over the economy and the price of goods.
If that's all you wanted to say, then I'm leaving.
Fine, we'll let the voters decide in the general election.
We will not let you take control of the working class any much longer. We will abolish this cross of gold.
But he didn't. The voters elected William McKinley into office on November 3rd, 1896, over keeping the gold standard opposed to a gold and silver one.
Even though William Jennings Bryan wasn't elected, he remained optimistic about the free silver movement. However, his concepts can never gain traction and attract more voters, so he lost a total of 3 consecutive presidential elections.
Why do you think Bryan worked so hard just to lose 3 elections?
Well, there's no way to know why William had such a high determination, but knowing he grew up as a peasant makes it possible that he had an emotional connection to helping people that were like him.
So, could you say that McKinley isn't much different? He had the same desire in mind of doing what's best for the American people.
Right, and the reason why they had such different opinions might be because of the environment they were raised in. Nonetheless, they were both great people with good intentions, but different ways of doing so. But there's one thing that still isn't clear to me. Did this only impact America, or were other countries impacted by this?
Well, the difference in rate in which gold and silver were being mined in the late 19th century was significant. If the gold and silver standard was put into effect, then international trade would have been affected drastically. This is all due to because we returned to bimetallism, which is a system of allowing unrestricted currencies of 2 metals, so gold and silver in this case, as legal tenders to a fixed ratio to each other.
I see, so this just wouldn't affect America, but any other country that wanted to trade with the U.S., as the exchange rate would also fluctuate, making it difficult for them to keep up.
Exactly. And with this, international relationships could be damaged and tensions between nations could lead to something worse.
So, whatever did happen to the gold standard, do we still use it today?
Well, if we fast forward a couple years later, in 1971, President Richard Nixon abolished the gold standard. His plan was to make central banks have a greater control over their own money and making it easier to control the overall money supply and interest rates.
So, the gold standard was in place for a little over 100 years. At some point, it must have begun to significantly weigh down the country. Was it ever changed by anything else?
Yeah, the United States changed the dollar to both a fiat money and a legal tender, which isn't backed by gold, but it's value that the government chooses for it to be.
I understand. So, as humans, it's easy to brush someone's perspective aside because we don't understand it. There's no 2 people alike, so there's no 2 stories alike, so there's no one solution that can solve everyone's problems.
Yeah, so even though Bryan's Cross of Gold speech never made it through, he still managed to give hope to millions of people around the country.
Right, so the Cross of Gold, one of the greatest political speeches in American history, wasn't because it introduced a revolutionary concept, but because it was able to sway people's hearts during immense hardship.
Exactly.